Welcome to Intergenerational Conversations, where hosts Keona Owens and Josephine Robinson bridge the generational gap in the nonprofit world. Each episode dives deep into topics that bring diverse ages togetherness, sparking innovation, understanding, and collaboration. Through engaging interviews and dynamic discussions, Intergenerational Conversation explores how different generations contribute their unique perspectives to shape stronger, more inclusive nonprofit communities. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting your journey, join us as we uncover the power of conversations, shared experiences, and collective wisdom across the age. Hey, welcome everybody back to Intergenerational Conversation. I'm your co-host, Keona Owens. Unfortunately, Josephine Robinson could not join us tonight, and we're getting into a topic that's about to level up how we think about impact and leadership. One of my favorite, which is involving volunteer engagement. Especially running a volunteer-led organization for some time, I'm here and I'm beyond hyped to introduce to you guys one of my friends, Dr. Sherrod.
Hello, everyone.
She's a game changer, a strategist, a visionary behind SIP Corporation and also She Will Legacy.
Yes.
And she's here to drop some serious gems. I'm excited to have her. Welcome, Dr. Sherrod. Go ahead and tell the people who you are.
Well, I am a woman who wears, number one, a lot of hats. But one of my greatest things that I love is giving back. And I always refer it when people say, why do you do what you do? And I believe that I lead by Colossians 3:23. Everything I do for the Lord and not for man. So you can see the passion, the love, all of the environment coming out with me. And so I run She Will Legacy and SIP, 23 years, boots on the ground, giving back for children, youth, adults, and seniors galore. And so that is one of the things that I am very proud of.
Amazing. So we are actually going to shake up some things and talk about volunteering and how it can create career pathways, long-term impact across multi-generational. So let's get into the topic. So first off, what is the biggest shift you've seen in how different generations approach volunteerism today?
Well, I think one of the biggest shifts that I've seen is just the age group. And so everybody has their millennials, their baby boomers, and everything else like that. But what I really think is, if I have to look at my seniors, I call them the boots on the ground group because they have the time, they have the commitment, they have the passion, and they've been doing it for so long that it just seems natural. And then my next 30s, 40s, and 50s, I really want to call them the movers and shakers group because they will be moving to the boots on the ground. And then I want to say my 20 and under, I'm really looking at them as like our successors because we really have to build a strong net to be able to transition them to movers and shakers and then also boots on the ground. So those are things that how I look at the shift as I begin to be out in the community and see what's going on.
Amazing. I like that she's categorized them into 3 tiers. So when do you see organizations missing the mark when trying to connect with younger and seasoned volunteers such as those 3 tiers?
So I definitely think for our seniors, they're set. They already know what they want to do. And so I think where they miss the mark with them is the empowerment of encouraging them to pair with a younger adult. And so I think we don't pass the torch. And when we do pass the torch, it is a little bit too late with it being said. And so I think if we could at least pair them together, there's something about the wisdom of our seasoned seniors that will be able to get those youth, I guess, moving. But I also know that youth are in the age right now where they listen. And sometimes they don't listen. And so they don't know the value of it until you put that middle age group in. And then I think all 3 of those connect them together.
Absolutely. I feel that a lot of nonprofits post that help needed, volunteer now, connect now, sign, but really don't create an experience. So what actually moves people to show up and stay engaged? Because a lot of times people don't stay committed to the project. And I'm a firm believer about alignment. So how can they get people to show up?
So I think one of the things is we make it a job. and we don't make it a lifestyle. And people say, well, how do you get all the volunteers? How do you get people to stay connected to you? Everything I do is in a family. I am very family oriented. I treat them like we're brothers, sisters, cousins. And so if you want to connect with youth, you have to be youth oriented. That is my specialty. Youth development is my specialty. You have to do what they're doing, know what they're doing. You have to have the right songs when you volunteering. You have to have incentives for them as well. But here's one thing they don't do because they don't have the time. They don't connect. So for example, I go to graduations, I go to proms, I go to family barbecues as well too. So that, and then when I tell a youth, especially since people are like, how do you get young involved? But when I tell young people over and over again, I am in your life as long as you need me.
That part.
And that is the connection that I think we fell at, because we're there for a season and a reason, but we're not invested in the long term. Yeah. And so being invested is what I think is most important. And I'm not saying people are not doing it. I think you all are doing a good job. I'm just saying that these are some ways that you can reshift, because the kids are out there, they're looking for things to do, to get involved in, and just to be I want to say just be active.
Yeah. So let's flip the script a little bit.
Right.
What are some of the biggest opportunities we're leaving untapped when it comes to multi-generational volunteer teams? And I'll let you answer that.
Okay, let's see. You say the biggest thing untapped. So I think more or less inclusion.
Yeah.
That's when I look at that. Yeah, inclusion. Inclusion. And so one thing about inclusion, and there's different levels of inclusion, meaning you have to have the raw definition, but you also have to make sure that you step outside of your comfort zone. So for example, my youth this past weekend was getting awards for American Red Cross of Illinois for the youth humanitarian law team. And so I remember a gentleman pulling me to the side and said, this is the first time that I really saw a diverse group of students get this many awards. Yeah. And so he said, I normally see this, and he was from New York, but he was visiting here. And so one thing, he said, how do you get them involved? I said, well, the thing about it is, we have to connect the bigger picture. Yeah. And so very good in connecting that bigger picture, we have to be willing to take kids where they don't want to go or where we've never been, to open up doors so that they can see more than we see. And so that's one level of inclusion. Other things, inclusion, even when we talk about inclusion in the schools right now, bringing all diversities together, finding and meeting where we're at, because volunteerism is definitely is not. We don't have to worry about race, gender. You don't have any requirements to volunteer. Yeah. No background, really no experience, to be honest with you, as well too. Yeah. So I think that would be my biggest thing, if I can say that inclusion, diversity, equity, all of those things are wrapped into it.
Absolutely. So I also want to pivot right now. We talked about inclusion, but let's take it to a step further. Okay. We understand that there are opportunities that's created when you volunteer. I always believe that who is your next?
Yes.
Volunteerism create and open up doors of possibilities.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about how it create career pathways.
So here's one thing that when I work with my youth, because I'm training them by the minute and by the hour constantly of what you do now impacts the way you live the rest of your life. So for example, when kids signed up for my program, we open up a Google document. There's a volunteer folder already set aside for them. So each month we actually have active live volunteering all over Chicago. So we stay busy and we connect them to civic leaders, all type of nonprofit organizations, for-profit businesses. But we log those hours in and we keep track of those. Another big thing is seeing the big picture of why is this important job related wise? Because you're going to learn skills that you never would know. You're going to have leadership opportunities. You're going to have presentation opportunities as well too. But one thing you may not know, 4 years ago, I took the first youth team to win the governor's award for Serve Illinois Commission, and it was strictly off of volunteer hours.
Wow.
But here's one thing I did. I connected that with their college applications, and all of those seniors got full rides or had scholarships that paid for all 4 years. In that one, after I counted up all of their financial aid, I had $1.2 million in scholarships.
Talk about scaling and creating opportunities.
Absolutely.
Yes,
So
I love that.
They didn't think that volunteerism played out. Now, they didn't do it for that. They were so busy working.
Yeah.
And then the transition was, let's log in your hours, because they logged in their leadership. Let's log into your volunteer hours. And then when it got time for college essays, all of the question was like, how did you give back? What did you do to be a upstander? What did you do to be a good community asset or leader in there? They were able to take all of that information out based on those hours and put them together. Even right now, I'm awarding 8 people in June for the Presidential Points of Life Presidential Service Volunteer, 2 lifetimers, and then they're adults, and then the other 6 are students from 5th grade all the way up until 8th grade.
Amazing.
When I say boots on the ground, my babies are boots on the
Yes,
ground.
and I am also a recipient of that Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes,
so congratulations.
yes,
to
all
those.
right.
I love it. So let's get tactical here.
Okay.
How can nonprofits tailor volunteer experience to match the unique motivation? This actually is a pivotal moment from our previous question.
Okay.
And preferences of different generations.
So I do. There's a lot of volunteer management organizations that I think, and we have one real good one in Chicago as well too. I think they do a really good job with logging them in. Even Serve Illinois Commission has a whole thing pulled up. CARES program is what I was talking about too. Those two, I look at those. Those two already have very good management. Things, and they're pulling those in. Now, what I did do, because I'm actually talking about volunteerism at the Serve Illinois next month and doing a workshop on it, and what I love what they do. Now, they're a conference that already has adults. What they did this year is last year, because I brought my German students here, and they love the idea of having high school students, so now they've opened it up to high schools. So now they're bringing them on site.
Yeah.
And when they bring them on site, we're going to have like all of these conversations about volunteers. We're going to do volunteer mapping. Those are the things. That's how you do that intergenerational.
Yeah.
But you pull them from different schools. You pull them from different communities as well too. And I'm going to have some seniors in there. I'm going to have some our middle age group in there as well too. And then you not only just talk about it, because I'm not a talker, I'm an active doer.
Yeah.
We're actually going to do on site a volunteer project as well too. Actually using some of the things Tough Gift have gave us to kind of pull those things in and see how things go as well too. So we're going to do that. They're going to earn hours on site as well too, and then they're also going to be able to leave there so that they can start a volunteer club at their school. And because they already have like national honor societies, but the actual volunteer clubs matter as well too.
I love that so much. So how important, and I think this actually expound upon what you just said, but how important is flexibility in today's volunteer landscape, and how can nonprofits adapt without losing structure?
Well, I say, so here's a couple of things, because I had a lady earlier today ask me could I speak at an event next week, and I think I think more or less most people want to be paid for what they're doing. And so the flexibility is, I think, it's kind of hard to say as well too, because of looking in how they're going to match that. Even I guess in the time part, and that's why I think our seasoned seniors are so good at it, meaning that they have the time, they have the flexibility. There's not a personal gain that they're going to have as well too. I think nonprofits, if they have a base of volunteer hours that they're putting out as well too, if they have a program specifically that is aligned to, this is what we're going to do to impact these communities, these are partnerships we're going to form, I think that makes an even more better landscape in how you do it. But you have to have somebody that's focused mind, but also good at organization and being able to pull those. And that's another thing is, if you don't, I always tell people, do leadership assessments. Assess those people that are in that organization, find out who they are, use those assessments to create committees, and then also be in the room with people where you need things to get done and ask them, how can I help? How can I be of service? Take those notes, bring them back, where you're missing, create professional development for them, and then move on.
Yes.
To the action plan, at least.
Yes. So I think that's a great example. I was going to ask, give me an example of an innovative volunteer program that successfully attract and retain multi-generational volunteers.
Yeah, I would say if I had to give an example of a program, and when you talk about that, the greatest example, because I don't want to give an example, but the greatest example is surveying.
I love surveys.
So before I did a grant a while ago, and for 3 years, it was a great grant, violence prevention, youth development, and then we were inside the correctional center. When I did that grant, in order to get that grant, I had to have research. And so in the process of having research, I wanted to know what the people needed from me. So a lot of times we don't survey, we don't ask those questions. And so I was able to take that research, especially for youth focus, and what they were very impressed at. I took them because I was already leading a team that had kids in 12 different high schools. I said, you're going to take this back and you're going to survey kids in your school. You're going to ask them what's important. Data doesn't lie.
It doesn't.
It does not.
It does not.
And so you're going to, and then we took that, and because, of course, so I always tell people that I am a research buff. I read dissertations for fun. So I took that, I coded all of that information, and then I came out to say, here are the problems. Now, a lot of times nonprofits want to tackle, they want to do either two things, tackle all of them, or they want to leave them on the board. And so what I didn't do is I didn't tackle all, but I set a very good action plan with our youth. What could we realistically do today with that volunteer program? What is it that we could realistically do during this time period? And then we're going to set goals. So we're going to hit this summer. We're going to hit these two in the fall, in the spring, and then we're going to come back, review that information. Then we're going to make sure that we send out feedback surveys to make sure that we're doing what we say we're going to do. And then after that, we're going to have an evaluation team that actually reviews that feedback, make sure that we hit the points, and then we're going to do that before we move on to action plan. People don't have time to do that.
I love quantitative and qualitative surveys, honey. When I say it tells stories.
It does.
Especially when you're developing programs, oftentimes it's important we need to survey the community instead of just giving them what we think they need.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
And then the number one thing that youth always say, I don't care any room I am, is adults don't listen.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
They don't hear me. They don't see me. They don't understand. They don't know where I'm at. They don't know that I'm stressed because, old school will tell you stress. You ain't got no bills. You ain't got this. You ain't got this. But kids are stressed.
They different levels of stress.
Different level. And we have to meet them where they are and respect the things that they say. And so that's where we're at in that generation. So that when you say sometimes, why can't we pair youth with seasoned seniors? The problem is if that seasoned senior has that mindset of do as I say or don't ask questions, instead of the youth saying, well, I'm inquisitive. I need to learn, and this is how I learn by asking questions. So that's why we got to find that middle and then meet.
I agree. So how can organizations, let me pivot. For organizations struggling to keep volunteers, because oftentimes we don't create the experience for the people, or if we're having just that one-time event, what advice would you give to inspire long-term commitments?
So I would say the biggest thing that I would do is and I'm going to say this to you, how did you treat that volunteer from the moment they put their foot in the yes that they were going to do it to the very end? That is the number one thing. So, and I was with an organization the other day, and they said, well, you've been here for such and such years. Why do you stay? I said, because of how you treat me.
Yeah.
And it matters how you talk to me, how you love on me. And when I say love, I mean unconditional love. And sometimes we don't know what unconditional love is. And I'm going to pivot for a second. Bible say, forgive as far as the east is to the west, 70 times 7. So with that being said, that's the type of love you have. You cannot have violent. And I tell you, are not going to have me sign up for a position and mistreat me.
That part. And I think this is where we could talk about customer loyalty.
Yes.
So a quick fire roundup. One thing organizations should stop doing right now, and one thing they shouldn't do when it comes to customer loyalty, volunteer loyalty.
Absolutely. And so I looked at that earlier and I said, you know what? This is what you can stop doing, working in silos.
Oh.
I didn't want to step on nobody's toes. Stop working in silos.
Yeah.
What can you start doing is building community calendars.
Yes.
There are, and I was at a small town, and it was, and I brought together a team of people. I asked every head at every organization to come together because we were all dealing with youth, and let's sit at the table. We sat at the table. I had grant money. I said, this is what I have. I am willing to share it with anybody if we can all get on the same page and then create a community calendar. There's no sense of you doing a neighborhood block, this person doing a neighborhood block, this person doing. Why can't you go together, especially if there are 3 blocks, and come together and do it? And I know people say, well, I don't want to work with this person and I don't want to deal with it, because that's where attitudes and egos come about. Yeah. So we have to be able to put those attitude and egos aside, and we have to think of the bigger picture. Yeah. What is the bigger picture? It is, what is this particular event or thing that we're doing? What fruit will it manifest and produce later on in life? And so when you figure that out, that is the biggest thing. Because if I could worry about the outcomes, and we put the outcomes on the board, because that's what grants ask you to do, measure an outcome.
Yep.
So if I could put the outcomes on the board and I say, how we get to the outcomes is how it matters. That is what we do. And then while you're doing that, love, how did you appreciate them during that process as well? You just had an event, said bye, and then you went on about your business. Did you take time to provide incentives for them? Yeah. Did you thank them? Well, I thanked them once. Thank you, what makes room for more. When I grew up, that's what I learned.
Gratitude.
Absolutely. Did you spotlight them? My volunteers, when I know, I ask them what their birthdays are so I can spotlight you on your birthday. I want to make you feel so comfortable and so loved and so appreciate that if I call you, you're going to say yes.
Yeah, you're going to show up.
Show up, hold up. Show up sharp.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. So we're actually running out of time. Okay. So Dr. Sherrod, if you can capture tonight's biggest takeaway in one powerful statement, what would that be?
If everyone does a little, then others won't have to do a lot.
Come on now. You better drop the gems.
Focus on you. And when you do stuff, I'm a firm believer of, I'm a professional business minder, which means I mind my own business. If I don't have anything nice to say, I don't say it at all. I think about what I'm going to say and how it's going to affect somebody's feelings. If we can get the bullies out of the room, the haters, the backstabbers, and then we can all put that egos and attitudes aside, that would be my biggest blessing.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So tonight's energy has been next level. Dr. Sherrod, how can people stay connected to you?
Very good. So a couple of things you can do is you can follow me on Facebook, SIMP Incorporated, SIMP. That stands for Sherrod's Independent Mentoring Program. I also have She Will Legacy, but we do sister and brother things together as well, too. You can find me on LinkedIn if you are a professional business lover. I love LinkedIn as well. You can also email me at simpincorporated.com, and that's ED with the @ or you can do me a good favor, 708-405-9282, and text and let me know what it is that you need for me to do, or how we can meet for coffee, lunch, and we can talk about big things and big ideas and moving forward, because Chicago is a great place to be.
It is. And thank you so much for joining me today. To our listeners, don't just listen, take action. Start Reimagine Volunteer Engagement in your organization, your school, your community. Let's create experience that inspire every generation to show up, lead, and build legacy. Join us next month, what was the date again?
19th.
May 19th, because we had to change the date, y'all. So it won't be on the 26th, because that's Memorial Day, but we will come to you guys, come to your wherever you are, your living rooms, your office, on May 19th. And that conversation is one of my favorite, storytelling across generations. We're actually going to talk about harnessing the power of storytelling to connect with diverse audiences, sharing intergenerational stories of impact and inspiration, and tips for crafting narratives that resonate across age groups. Thank you so much for having us in your living rooms, and enjoy your evening. See you next month, May 19th.
Have a great day. Keep inspiring.
Thank you.
Welcome
Welcome to Intergenerational Conversations, where hosts Keona Owens and Josephine Robinson bridge the generational gap in the nonprofit world. Each episode dives deep into topics that bring diverse ages togetherness, sparking innovation, understanding, and collaboration. Through engaging interviews and dynamic discussions, Intergenerational Conversation explores how different generations contribute their unique perspectives to shape stronger, more inclusive nonprofit communities. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting your journey, join us as we uncover the power of conversations, shared experiences, and collective wisdom across the